Donald Trump and Joe Biden agree on very little, but they did agree that the time had come for the United States to leave Afghanistan. This suggests to me that there was no appetite in any section of US society to remain longer. And I can understand why. The war lasted 20 years, the longest armed conflict in American history. It claimed the lives of some 2,500 American servicemen. And as you both said, it was monumentally expensive. US taxpayers paid $2.3 trillion to finance the war, or about $300 million per day, every day, for 20 years. By the time all is said and done and the war debts are paid, it's likely to amount to something of the order of $6.5 trillion, which makes Afghanistan a contender for the title of the single most expensive war for any country in the entire history of human civilization. So with the weight of that human and financial burden bearing down on Americans, could any president realistically have done anything other than leave Afghanistan, even if that meant abandoning the field to the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS-Khorasan, and the very terrorists the war was meant to subdue?
Tom, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start first. That's an excellent question, Akash. I think
I agree. Yeah.
One of the few corners, I should say, of the government that wanted to stay was the highest, reaches of the U.S. military. And Josh has referred to this before about keeping 2,500 troops in Afghanistan in order to prop up the government and maintain the ability to strike at terrorist targets. But beyond that, there really wasn't any appetite for it. And I'm not so sure that even if there was the appetite for it, that 2,500 troops would have made a difference. I mean, would they have been able to prop up the Afghan government? I'm not so sure that's possible. Given how quickly we saw it unravel. Would they have been able to maintain control in Kabul? And what good would that have done? I mean, I'm not so sure that's true. That was a possibility. And could the withdrawal have been done any better? Well, you would hope it could have been done better, but I'm not so sure that that's the case either. There's been talk about how if the air base at Bagram had been kept open, that might have been a way to ease the withdrawal. But it's 30 miles, at least 40 miles from Kabul on bad roads that I've been on a number of times. I don't know how that would have facilitated an evacuation any better than the one they had. So I'll turn it over to Josh on that note and let him weigh in.
Yeah, well, it was an excellent question. And I think, Tom covered most of it. But, I do think that the government, the Biden administration was warning people for months and saying, look, this is really going to, poop's going to hit the fan. And I really think that people have to start making preparations to leave. So, I think they are kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. One thing that I found in the reporting, and Tom and I have talked about this a lot, is, the unintended consequences of leaving. One of the issues that I think on a more geopolitical stage that's a problem is that now that we have left Afghanistan completely, you have Iran, you have China, you have Russia. Everybody is there jockeying for position and trying to gain advantage, sending people in there, proxies and direct people, people that work for the government. It really is the great game, from Rudyard Kipling's time writ large. People always talk about it as the graveyard of empires, but, there are a lot of people there now that are trying to gain strategic advantage. Iran has been there for a long time, with its proxy organizations. Russia has too. So there's a concern now that, by abdicating that we are out of the competition in the game. And there's a lot of resources there. There's a lot of, it's a strategic location in some respects. So, I would hope that people in the government had factored that into their calculus of leaving, but I'm not sure that they did. And, nobody knows what's really going to happen now, whether it's going to be a staging area for Iran or China or Russia or all of the above.